Welcome, Vero Nation, to the Coach's Corner, presented by Caps Pizza and Pub. Here's your host, Paul Tipton.
Well, we got DJ Coach Jay over here doing a little remix there on our intro there, folks. Hey, Vero Nation, thanks for joining us here at the Coach's Corner. We're at Caps Pizza, and always appreciate the hospitality here at Caps Pizza. I know it's been a while. I hope everybody did okay through Hurricane Milton. I know for some of our area, man, they took a really hard punch, and certainly our prayers and our hearts are with all those folks that really felt the impact through all these storms or tornadoes, I should say, that we had through the course of Hurricane Milton. Something that was definitely unprecedented. Good to be back, Coach. No, it's been a little while, and man, I feel like the game against Booker T. Washington seemed like almost like last season as we get back in the swing of things. First and foremost, I know maybe like me, a lot of folks I think saw some pictures posted on social media seeing water covered all over the Citrus Bowl area. How's the stadium? Everything okay?
I don't know who took the picture. But that was a great shot. It obviously made its way to me as well. But everything at the Citrus Bowl is fine. I don't know that there's a field that drains better than ours right now with our new surface. Coach Paris has been out there on occasion where, it'll rain a bunch that afternoon. And by the time, the evening rolls around for a game, it's in great playing condition. And goodness, from what we're used to prior to that surface, it could rain on a Tuesday and the game would be in jeopardy on a Friday night. I was always accused of watering our field down by our opponents, and I think, goodness, I'm willing to try some things. I don't know, watering the field would be one of them, but anyway, no, the field's in great shape. We've been out there and on occasion practicing and doing our stuff, and they had the Crown Jewel there this weekend, the big band competition. So we're up and running and in good shape. But that was an impressive picture where everything was underwater.
Yeah, no kidding.
But we didn't have, thank goodness, we did not have any damage to any of our facilities, but including locker rooms and things along that go along with the stadium facilities, bathrooms, all those kinds of things. We're in good shape and we'll be ready to go this Friday night. Good.
Kind of maybe a weird question here, but they got those rubber pellets or whatever that are down in the turf there. Right. When you have a lot of standing water like that, does that somehow erode those, or do you know, or how do you ever evaluate that?
Yeah, so what I compare it to is oftentimes when you get big rain and you have the loose grass clippings in your yard, and they can bunch up and do that kind of stuff with some runoff. It evenly drains, and so you don't get a lot of that. But we do have it's really just a big sweeper, like a big vacuum that will sweep all those pellets and distribute them evenly. And we do that regardless of a storm. We do that once every couple weeks. And it makes for great even playing surface.
All right. Well, talking about football, I'm sure it was probably challenging because you weren't allowed, you couldn't practice a little bit, but staying in contact with your guys is always a challenge when you're not in school every day and those kind of things. Everybody okay? Back to work? All right? Everything seems normal, or what?
Yeah, I think we're back to normal. Just to remind our fans of where we were at is. We were coming off the big win against Booker T, and then we were headed into a game versus Rockledge. So we were in school the Monday, and the forecast was not great. And so we knew that our school was going to be used for a shelter, and we had gotten word that we were going to be out of school on Tuesday through Thursday. We weren't sure about Friday, depending on the storm. So we were doing this big cram session on Monday to try and prepare for a potential game on Friday, because that's kind of what we knew. So we were crammed up doing a very extensive walkthrough, so to speak, for the best way to describe it, and getting ready for the Rockledge game, which of course was on the road. But we got so we weren't around our kids Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. That storm rolled through, and obviously, as you mentioned in the intro, there was some devastation here to some of our local neighborhoods and communities. So obviously, there's bigger things happening, and the shelter was open through Friday. School was canceled on Friday. Games were canceled on Friday. So we lost that game. And then we were on this past week was a scheduled bye week. So to not be around our kids Tuesday through Friday in a lot of situations, I mean, that's really that's the longest we're ever not around them.
Yeah.
And so we didn't, got track everybody. We got back to school on that Monday, and that was really just a day to say, okay, everybody's together and, everything good. And we tried to have communication on neighborhoods and making sure our kids were safe. And then we did our regular bye week deal, and we practiced that Monday. We went Monday through Thursday. Had 4 good days, and part of that is some very brief preparation for our upcoming opponent, and some of that is just as we talk about heading into a bye week, looking to get healthy, doing all those kinds of things, and try to take advantage of that time. And here we are this week on a Tuesday, and it's game week again, and we're back at it. So the routine stays as it is, but I felt like the bye week was productive, and the way things happened, we put a positive twist on it and did our best.
So we finished up week 7 with that win with Booker T, 24-21, with the dramatic finish, blocking the field goal there at the end to seal that win, and it makes us 4-3. And so just a kind of quick recap, Coach, on the season. You start out 0-3, but you've won your last 4 ball games, and certainly I know you were chomping at the bit to get back out on that field when you got that kind of momentum. But things are what they are, and you just got to go with the flow.
Yeah, and I mean, we are, I think we're playing some good football right now. We're excited to be, improving each week. I think that's the goal for everybody, and I feel like that's happened. I think that's happened in all 3 phases. There's always things to clean up. You always have challenges with your opponents, whether it's, your opponent's talent, your opponent's speed, your opponent's scheme, all of those things combined, and so there's challenges each and every week. But yeah, I mean, a layoff is never what a long layoff, an extended layoff is never what you're looking for at this time of the year. You can always, enjoy the bye week and try to utilize that. But we've been off more than we usually are. But like I said, everybody's been dealing with a little something.
Coach, you when you have this kind of a layoff, you and your staff get together. How do you script your practice itself? I mean, we're going to work on this, and you do, because everything you would do it by time. I mean, you got a period, then you go to another period, and when you have this long of a layoff, and you got to keep the kids focused, and you got to, how much time did you and your staff spend stretching all that out for the?
I think that's a good question, and so my philosophy and all of that is I want the game week to be as close to any game week as you'll see. So the bye week we'll try to do some other things. It might be, getting your backups a few more reps than they typically get in big team or big group settings. It may be looking to establish depth. You might be wanting to, experiment with a guy at a different position or a different look. And so we try to do all those things in the bye week. But now that we're in game week, and I would hope that if you guys were at practice today, that this Tuesday would look very similar to any Tuesday during our season. I want our Tuesday, we've talked about it before, that on Mondays we've got to get X number of things accomplished and going through all that. And then the Tuesday should look very similar to any other Tuesday during the game week. So I guess that's the long version. The bye week, like I said, we'll get a preview, and we'll, obviously playing Treasure Coast. We've played them a time or two in my years at Vero, and so we have a decent understanding of what they're looking to get accomplished, and so you'll be able to preview that a little bit, because there are some challenges to getting lined up against these guys. And so you just, like I said, try to take advantage of that time. But then once you get to game week, I want it to be as close to every other Tuesday as we have.
Coach, on looking at your offense, starting from week 1 now, we're working our way into week 10 here now. What do you like about your offense? What has surprised you? What has been the I guess maybe the good changes that you've liked to see in your offense at this point?
Well, I think just to start with overall, I think whatever the situations happen to be that you go through during the season. So we're headed into our 8th game, the 10th week of the season, I guess, and so there are things that happen, whether it be injuries or some guys that surprise you, whether it be good or bad, or maybe you made a mistake or in your evaluation of a guy, and you either underestimated or overestimated. So by this time, you got a lot of that all figured out, you know. And so, but what it does is it allows you to establish some depth. So what's happened throughout the season, if we just look at certain positions, whether that's like running back, okay, so we had different things happen throughout the season where our top 2 runners at different times during the season, you know, those guys were out for a game or so, or maybe not at full speed. And so but the other one gets valuable experience while the other one, you know, and then there are other guys that move up that depth chart that are now, they may have been going with your third group, but now they're going with your second. And so those kinds of things cycle themselves and happen. And so what I'm pleased with is that we've been able to, whether it's through some creative practice plans or moving guys around or whatever, you've got to have a plan for depth at this point in the year, because, you know, as the old saying goes, you know, you're one play away or whatever, and you need to be as good as your next guy up. And so some of those things have happened. Obviously, I think we've talked about it each and every week. I've just been very, very pleased with the improvement of our quarterback play throughout the season. Champ just continues to do big things there, and just his ability to you know, continue to have a good understanding of what we're trying to do offensively and be more and more comfortable with, you know, the offensive game plan, whatever that might be, to be actively involved with that. You know, as he's become more comfortable and more experienced, he's got a lot more say and input in what we're trying to do. And, you know, I like to do what he's comfortable doing and all those kinds of things. So that's been a lot of fun. I think we've seen a bunch of different guys catch passes and get involved in the receiver position. And then on the offensive line, those guys that we don't talk enough about, we've had some guys that have rotated in, whether it be because of injury, because of need, because of some guys playing some defense, and we've got, you know, some more guys involved. So that, you know, that first 5 has turned into a first 8 or 9 that you got some guys rotating in, so that when things happen, it's not, you know, the panic button doesn't need to be pushed as quick.
How challenging is that when you talk about, you know, guys shuttling in and out all the time, especially like with that offensive line? If you got some guys that are playing defense, they need a break, whatever. Obviously, you got your offensive line coaches. Do you totally depend on them to make sure, like, okay, I need these guys in for a particular play, or how does that all work?
Well, we're very fortunate in that, you know, we've worked together as a staff for a long time. So the easiest answer is, yeah, I'm fully dependent on our coaches. I've got, you know, a great amount of trust, and we've got 2 really good offensive line coaches, and Coach Willis and Coach DeLuke, and both those guys work very well together. And they have a lot of input on what we're doing on the offensive line. You know, really the entire. I mean, I lean on those guys for all that, and sometimes it might mean, you know, we're going to play a guy at left tackle one week, but this week, for whatever reason, you know, he's going to play right tackle. Or as you mentioned, there's a guy playing defense, or we have one week we may have a universal backup, where another week, you know, hey, if our left guard goes down, then left guard number 2 is plugging right in. So, and a lot of that depends, again, on the health of our guys, on how many guys are playing both ways, and you know, just how the game plays out.
All right. Well, we are talking about our offense. Oh, you want to finish?
No. I was just going to ask him real quick. You've got a lot of young kids. You've been playing on both sides of the ball, trying to find a home for them on offense, for a home on defense. They're skilled enough to play both ways. And has that been a plus for you this year, having that much talent out there? But a young talent, though. Yeah,
I think it's a plus. But, you know, there's also challenges to that, and you have to get creative with how you practice, because, you know, oftentimes if you're used to 2 platooning and the offense is practicing over here, the defense is practicing over there, and you say, oh, yeah, just come on over here for 5 minutes. Well, he's not getting the same instruction as he did, you know. And again, you know, credit to our coaches, and just having that continuity, we've figured out how to try to make the best of that.
All right. Well, there you go, folks. We're going to come back and talk a little bit about the defensive effort for the Fighting Indians throughout the course of this season as we work our way into Week 10. And it'll be a matchup against Treasure Coast. We'll talk about the Titans a little bit later as well. We're in the Coach's Corner here at Caps Pizza. We'll be back with more.
Comfort Zone AC and Heating of Vero Beach has been servicing Indian River County for over 40 years, using only certified technicians. As a Christian, family, and veteran-owned and operated business, they offer comprehensive air conditioning, heating, and indoor air quality solutions to their clients. Online at ComfortZoneACNow.com. Proud supporters of Fighting Indians.
Thanks to Roy Bell Grading Services for sponsoring Fighting Indians football and the Fighting Indians post-game show.
Hi, my name is Chase Bell, and my father Roy has served Indian River County in the grading industry for over 40 years. My family and I are proud supporters of Christian FM and the Vero Beach Fighting Indians. Go Vero!
No job too small or too big. Roy Bell Grading Services. We roll here. 772-473-4559. Roy Bell Grading Services.
Fighting Indians football, where teamwork makes dreams work. We thank PDK Roofing. They believe in the power of teamwork. A Christian family making residential and commercial roofing dreams a reality. PDK Roofing is licensed and insured, and they stay up to date with what insurance companies require, ensuring their clients' confidence in their reliability. PDK Roofing is online at pdkroofinginc.com.
The Coach's Corner, presented by Caps Pizza and Pub.
And welcome back, Vero Nation, along with Gary Paris and Coach Jankowski. I'm Paul Tipton. Thanks for joining Week 10. And it's been a few weeks since we've been back out on the football field. Looking forward to it. And it will be a tough matchup this week against Treasure Coast. We'll talk about the Titans in just a little bit. But kind of doing a season recap here and talking a little bit about our program. Last segment, we talked about the offense. Coach, let's talk about the defense and the effort that it's been putting forth. You got to start with the leading tackler on the team, and that's TJ Alford, old Zero.
Yeah, he's a fun one for sure. I mean, he's a lot of fun to be around on and off the field, and he is that leader. Not just in tackles, but he's a leader in the weight room. He's a leader in the locker room. He's a leader on the field, off the field. Obviously, his talent speaks for itself, his recruitment, all those kinds of things. But just the way he goes about his business, his day to day. I mean, there's not many kids that are 17, 18 years old that have all of what he has going but yet still able to lead by example, to be humble, to be a team first guy. He's really fun. And his versatility, I think, not just in high school, but I think, because the reason that his recruitment is what it is because he can do so much. I mean, he runs, he can really, really run. He's a big kid. He's physical. He's smart. You can line him up and ask him to do different things. And we sometimes talk about like an eraser on offense, the guy that can do some things to make it happen. He's the eraser on defense. He's the guy that can make it all happen. So he's having a phenomenal senior year. He's done everything and more of what we've asked him. And we're surely going to need his play, his production, and all that to continue to improve down this home stretch because, he is that leader of the defense.
Yeah, we talked about the, offensive guys playing both ways. And, of course, a defensive guy that's been playing both ways has been Deuce Montgomery. And so impressive to see his endurance level through the course of the games. I mean, it's impressive for a guy of his size.
Yeah, so – obviously he's played and started on the defensive side of the ball for 3 years now. He's been a defensive starter, and so moving him over to the offensive side has been something that's always been in our thought process. But you get now it's week 6 or week 7, and so years have gone by. Well, in this summer we started talking about it, and really it started. For his individual benefit, because I wasn't sure. I know that he's going to be a college player. I know that he's going to make some coach really, really happy when he gets there. And we weren't sure if that was going to be on the offense or defensive line. I really didn't know how to market him best because he's a heck of a defensive lineman. But yet there aren't a lot of guys that can play the offensive line with that defensive mindset. Yeah. And he does that. When he gets on the O-line, he plays it very physically. He's a smart kid. He understands leverage. He understands how to play O-line. So that's been a lot of fun. And he's really, really a lot of times those guys get a little taste of defense. They don't want to come back to offense.
Right.
But he's really taken to it. And again, a team first guy and having a great senior year.
Yeah, Gary talked about, in the last segment about the youth of the team and a couple of guys that have been really contributing well to the defensive side, a couple of freshmen in Woods and also with Devin Green. I mean, my goodness. I mean, it's just impressive to see those young men making big plays.
They have. They've been big play machines. And however it's happened, sometimes, the ball just finds you. And I think that's happened, in Devin's case. What a great play that was at a critical time in the Booker T game, talking about Devin Green's 82-yard interception return for a touchdown, and ends up being a 3-point game that we win by. So obviously that speaks volumes for that. And again, I think we in between segments we were talking about the maturity of these guys, and Gary was mentioning that, and that's been just so enjoyable for me to see, on such a personal level, to watching these guys on and off the field, just kind of, grow up right in front of your face, because I don't care who you are. You're an incoming ninth grader. You're going to be a little goofy, a little, a little this, a little that, and these guys have really learned to understand, first and foremost, the value of practice, or at least at least in my eyes, as I value practice, and I don't think that they understood that when we first got started, and so I saw a clip somebody sent to me today from Bobby Knight, and Bobby Knight said something. The old basketball coach said something to the effect of, there's nothing that players understand better than being on the bench. And so sometimes, when you have to go through a situation where you're not playing or whatever, you're learning, hey, okay, I've got to practice a little bit better. And when I do that, then the Fridays are a little better too. And so I think getting some guys to understand that early on was important. And you hope to have most of that stuff figured out.
You got a young man that I just absolutely have just over the last couple of years. He's been fun for me to talk about, and that's Avion Rivers. And what a competitor. He's like he never slows down. He keeps going. He's all over the place. I see him trying to pick everybody up, get them fired up out there. He's got to be a real plus, even though he's only 5'5" or 6, but he weighs 205 pounds. He plays like he's 6'4", 240 pounds.
Yeah, so he's one of our starting inside backers, and he has been for a couple years. And he's one of those guys that he loves football. He loves the energy. His energy at practice is always. You're always going to hear it, even if you don't want to hear it. You're going to hear it. You're going to hear his energy level. You're going to witness it. And it's anything football he loves. So if we've got to be in the weight room for football, he loves being in the weight room. If we got to practice for football, he loves practice. If there's if we're practicing offense on this side and defense on that side, and the defense takes a quick water break, he's in the offensive mess, trying to, get involved or get whatever, get me to get him a handoff or get him a carry or get him, whatever it might be. He just loves being out there, and his energy is contagious. He's one of those guys that's he's a fountain of energy. There's some guys that'll drain you, and some guys and he brings that energy level up, so he's a lot of fun. He's a senior. He's having a great senior year. He obviously has big ambitions and very high individual goals, and wants to keep doing this for as long as he can. So, we're going to work very, very hard throughout the tail end of this season into the off season to find him a home, because he's definitely going to make some college coach real happy.
Great. He's the kind of player that's kind of like a catalyst in your whole defense. If he makes you play up.
He does. And we had that discussion, he and I individually before the season starts about the more team success that we have, the better it's going to be for him individually, because he is one of those team leaders. So, from our standpoint as coaches, fans, whatever that get to watch him, it's very easy to promote a guy like that when he's such an integral part of your team success.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are working our way into week 10. It is a big district showdown with Treasure Coast, and we're going to talk about the Titans when we return. More of Coach's Corner right after this.
Cafe 66.
located on US 1 just south of 8th Street. At Cafe 66, our breakfast menu is all about variety, from biscuits and gravy to country fried steak and eggs to Nutella stuffed French toast. Our lunch and dinner menus have something for everyone, from barbecue platters to unique burgers. Our hours online at cafe66vero.com. We proudly support the Fighting Indians.
Ohana Water Systems is proud to partner with Christian FM. Hi, I'm Mikey, owner of Ohana Water Systems. We've created a technology that takes city and even well water and turn it into drinkable, pH-balanced, remineralized alkaline water throughout the entire house. Our system also protects the plumbing and appliances from hard water damage. No obligation consultations and water testing available. Online at ohanawatersystems.com.
Masters Academy has excelled in biblical worldview education from pre-K through 12th grade since 1998. Alongside their quality college prep education, Masters Academy offers multiple self-paced high school programs, blending academic education with specialized trade skills. Masters Academy is located at the corner of 58th Avenue and 12th Street in Vero Beach. For more information about obtaining a Christ-centered education, contact Masters Academy at info@mastersvb.org.
The Coach's Corner, presented by Caps Pizza and Pub.
Well, here we are heading into week 10, and that means Vero Beach will be looking at Treasure Coast. And it's a district matchup, and this is for District 11 championship. Before we talk about the Titans, Coach, we obviously got the game canceled against Rockledge. The state came in and said they're going to extend the season a little bit. So maybe explain a little bit about that. Like, will we have an opportunity to try to get an extra game in or try to get a makeup game in, or how's this all work, and when do playoffs actually start?
Yeah, potentially. So, obviously we've got this game, and, as I've told you, that's our full focus. We're focused on this game, which will be game number 8 against Treasure Coast. We lost the Rockledge game, which would have been game number 8. This would have been game 9. And then we've got, after the Treasure Coast on a regular season schedule, we have Palm Bay scheduled. So that would, with losing the Rockledge game, that would put us to 9 regular season games. And originally the playoffs were to start that following Friday. Well, after, the state got whacked with both hurricanes, and obviously we're just in an isolated part of the state, but our FHSA, the governing body of high school athletics, has to make decisions based on the entire state. And there were 2 that our state was affected by. So what they did is they extended the season, the regular season, through Thursday, the Thursday after that it would be week 11, after the Palm Bay week. Okay. So you could add a regular season game in there, but it would have to be played on that Thursday night. As it stands right now, we've got 9 regular season games scheduled. To answer your question, have we or will we, try to get a game scheduled for that Thursday night? I mean, there's a chance. I'm surely not going to, get overly excited about driving 5 or 6 hours just to play that game. Because again, there's going to be a lot involved with all that happening. But I'm surely not opposed to it. You guys have been around me long enough. I'm a big fan of playing as opposed to not playing. So if we can get 10 games in, I'm always going to try to get that. But it just has to make sense. And I think as we get through this a little bit further and get a feel for what's happening, we'll see what's going on.
So just for clarity's sake, I think that Thursday is November 7th.
There you go.
So do the playoffs start on the 8th, or do they start the following week on the 15th?
They start on the 15th.
Okay.
So the game would have to be, the regular season would have to be closed out for everybody in the state by the 7th. These state rankings that people are starting to talk about that the FHSA comes out with, those state rankings, they need the games to be played by that Thursday, so that on that Saturday they can come up with the rankings.
Gotcha.
And then they can pair up the teams that are playing. So, how that goes is the top 8 teams from each region make the state playoffs. 1 will play 8, 2 will play 7, and on and on. And so you need to have those pairings set so that coaches can plan and get prepared for those playoff runs.
All right. Well, we could talk about those rankings, but instead we'll just simplify things. It's real simple. We got a game on Friday night against Treasure Coast. It's for the district championship. Winner is the district champ, and it's an automatic berth into the playoffs. It's as simple as that. As I told Gary the other day, it's the same story, just different season. It comes down to Treasure Coast and Vero Beach one more time. And here we go, Coach. Coach Jones is bringing in the single wing again.
Yeah, it surely has happened that way, goodness, for as long as I can remember. I think this is year 14 for me. And, and it's been that way for a while now. And we've been in the same district in all my years. And we've had some great games. And so, but I think that the thing to get everybody to remember is that, and we talk about it, just individual games, that every game has a life of its own. Whatever. Sometimes you can look at all the way in college football. I think people were looking at, just use an example of the Alabama-Tennessee game this week. Everybody thought it was going to be a high score and all those prolific offensive players, ends up being a defensive battle, defensive struggle. You just never know how a game is going to be played. And so this game, regardless of what's happened in years past, regardless of what's going to happen in the future, will have a life of its own. They'll have a similar scheme that our fans are used to watching, that we're used to preparing for. Although it's a challenge, and I enjoy challenges, and I like the preparation. It's not a ton of fun to get ready for, because as I mentioned, I would like our Tuesday practice to look very similar to what last Tuesday's practice looked like. It's when you face the single wing, as you mentioned, it's an unbalanced offense. So if you try to stay in a balanced defense, you're going to be outmanned, and so you've got to do some things to make sure you're lined up and you're sound against their favorite plays. But you know what? I think what before we get, too carried away with scheme, I was in church a couple Sundays ago, and I go to the Catholic church, and in the Catholic church, the priest's message or his sermon is called the homily, and so he's doing that, and he's talking about marriage and family, I think was the theme. And I don't know if he saw me sitting back there, but he said, it just comes down to fundamentals and technique, and the basics and the fundamentals. He said it's blocking and tackling, and that I heard that message loud and clear, in that, sometimes you can get so carried away with all this scheme but it really will come down to the team that blocks better. Just like my priest said, the team that blocks better and the team that tackles better. It's going to be those fundamentals and technique that end up prevailing and coming out on top. And we're going to have to figure out how to block them, and we're going to have to figure out how to tackle them, no matter how they line up, and vice versa. And so it's funny how that ends up being the case.
It sure is. I mean, Coach, you got a team. Look, we were saying the same things at the beginning of our season when we started 0-3. It was like, okay, fans, all we have to do is win. There's 3 games that we really need to win in this season and get ourselves in the playoffs. Of course, Treasure Coast goes 0-6. They got to be telling themselves the same thing, and they both of us have put ourselves in position to get an automatic berth, and it comes down to this game.
Well, I think the more things are different, a lot of similarities there. I think we talked about, I'd like to describe our brand of football that we're playing as we're playing our best football now. We've continued to improve. I think, and we've talked about score comparing and all, how that's dangerous to do all that stuff. So throw all that stuff around, but away. But you watch it and you see the improvements that they've made. And again, I think that's a credit to Coach Jones, his staff, how he has the ability to keep those guys together, keep them moving, knowing that there's a goal, here to get to, and they're playing their best football. Have had 2 very lopsided wins here against the district opponents in complete domination. So we're looking forward to it. It has the makings of a great game for sure.
Well, we're looking forward to it as well. Finally get a chance to see the boys back out on the field. I know you're ready to get back out there as well. All right, kickoff is at 7 o'clock. We will be at the Citrus Bowl, so make sure to get your tickets. Let's get out there and support the boys, and let's cheer them on to another win. Maybe make it number 5 on the season, and a district championship would be awfully nice. Then that next week, then Gary and I and Coach can talk about the whole bracket system and how that all comes together with the playoffs and everything else. So
I would want to say to all of our listeners, anybody that's interested, we want to have a community event this Friday night. We want to bring our community together with everybody that's been through the storm. So we are Tickets are usually $10 at the gate. We're going to give $5 tickets in advance on Thursday. Fans can come to the school from 8 to 10.
Nice.
Obviously, we want it, so $5 tickets. We still have great seats left. We want to, pack the stadium and bring our community together. We know that everybody's been through a lot. Just be a fun night out, a Friday night out, and have everybody out and support the team and have a fun night out.
I like it. Yeah, and I think we're going to wear red that night too as well. I think it's red out night. So all right, guys, looking forward to it. Make sure to get your tickets. Let's all join the Citrus Bowl on Friday night. Kickoff at 7 o'clock. Our coverage will begin with our pregame show at 6 p.m. Gary Parrish, Coach Jankowski, I'm Paul Tipton. Thanks for joining us here at Coach's Corner, and thanks to Cavs for hosting us here as always. We'll see you Friday night. As always, go Indians.
Thanks for watching the Coach's Corner, presented by Caps Pizza and Pub.